Hey everyone, thank you for beginning your weekend with us here at Bookish, the virtual program on authors, thinkers, and the literary life, which is brought to you by the Southern California News Group and the Bay Area News Group. I'm Sam Dunn. I'm the senior editor of premium content here at SCNG and a book nerd and author myself. I want to say thank you to our Reader Reward subscribers and to all of you who've made all of our ongoing virtual programs so popular. By the way, if you are a Reader Rewards member attending tonight, you're automatically entered to win a $50 gift card from Barnes & Noble. Also, you can get a signed copy of books by today's authors from our new partner and one of our favorite independent bookstores in Los Angeles County, Once Upon a Time. Okay, so before we get started, there are a few things for you to know. If you're here tonight, you're muted to allow for the free flow of conversation among the guests. But if you have questions, and we hope you do, please use the Q&A feature on your Zoom toolbar. And if you just want to add a comment or talk to other people, use the chat feature also found there on your screen. We're going to be monitoring questions and comments and are going to respond as much as possible. Tonight, we've got our books editor, Eric Peterson, behind the scenes answering questions. This session will be videotaped and a link will be sent to you so you can share or just revisit some of your favorite moments. It's also going to be posted at, very important address, scng.com/virtual events. And that's where you're going to be able to find all of our past virtual shows and see what's coming up next. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our Bookish host. She's a writer, performer, and radio commentator whose work you probably know from NPR's Morning Edition and This American Life. She's a contributing editor to The Atlantic and host of the syndicated Daily Radio Minute, The Lowdown on Science. She's the author of many books, and her most recent is The Mad Woman and the Roomba, beaming to us from the bohemian splendor of Pasadena. Please welcome my friend Sandra Singh-Low. Sandra, where are you?
I tried to spring alive on the exact moment, but there was a little delay. I'm so excited for today because today's hour is one we might call not just for children anymore.
Ooh.
Okay, so we've got Henry Winkler and Lynn Oliver and Daniel Handler, aka Lemony Snicket. These are writers of books for young readers, but there are lots of themes that surprisingly resonate with adults too. In short, Samantha, I think shortly before 6 p.m. PST, you'll be a changed person.
I could use a change, girlfriend, let me tell you. And I'm so excited because my son and I just love these authors. I really can't wait.
Yeah, and I should mention that Henry Winkler and Lynn Oliver, that interview is a pre-tape, which means with the benefit of hindsight, I can cue you viewers into a couple of things that are going to happen. For one thing, they're going to talk about this amazing new font that is magic for dyslexic readers. Henry Winkler is going to lift it up. I will jabber through it, taking the Zoom camera away. So rest assured, when that comes up right after the interview, I'll hold up the font so you can really look at it because it's really amazing. And by that time, you will so want a copy of Hollywood versus the Galaxy. Well, Samantha, do you remember a couple of bookshows ago when we had Dean Koontz on?
Yes,
and our viewers were watching about when Dean Koontz's dog lifted her tail on the word
magic. And the first viewer to put the word in the chat was actually a Reader Rewards. Again, remember, I think it was Jennifer Dittmer of San Ramon who won the free book that time.
Reader Rewards striking again.
Yep.
So right at the half hour today, we'll do a snack quiz about what a certain famous fan of the Hank Zipser series said to Henry Winkler. First correct answer in the chat will win a free book. And then it's right on to Lemony Snicket and the accordion.
Fabulous. Sounds like you got a lot to do, so I'm going to get out of here.
Okay, great. Bye-bye. All right. So first up on Bookish, we have Henry Winkler and Lynn Oliver, 30-second downloads. Henry Winkler, as you know, is an actor, producer, and director best known for playing the Fonz on the hit 70s sitcom Happy Days. Other credits include movies like Scream and TV shows like The Practice and Arrested Development. His work playing actor-teacher Gene Cousineau alongside Bill Hader in the HBO series Barry won Winkler his first Emmy in 2018, although he'd been nominated many times before for The Fonz. So it was a lovely circle closing. With his wife, Stacy Winkler, he's co-founded the Children's Action Network, CAN, providing free immunization to more than 200,000 children. He also hosted the Reading Rockets PBS show, Reading and the Brain, which explores how brain scientists across the country are working to help struggling readers. He's co-authored the New York Times best-selling series, Here's Hank, Hank Zipser, the world's greatest underachiever, and alien superstar with Lynn Oliver. Lynn began as an educator of educational books for children. Together with fellow writer Steve Musser, she founded the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, a network for writers, illustrators, editors, publishers, agents, librarians, educators, booksellers, and more. Her other professional life has been that of a television producer. She was a vice president of Universal Studios for 11 years. She now runs her own production company, Lynn Oliver Productions. She wrote and produced Harry and the Hendersons and Corduroy for television. So here we go. Co-authors of Hollywood versus the Galaxy, Alien Superstar 3. Let's go to Henry Winkler and Lynn Oliver. So, Henry, tens of millions of people know you as the Fonz, the most iconic character of Happy Days, still one of the 20 most watched TV shows of all time. And of course, now they know you as Gene Cousineau in Barry, where it just won you the Emmy. So it can seem like a win, Henry Winkler.
I'm telling you, and now Fritz.
Right, exactly. Where you sing, you get to sing as Fritz as well. It's so fantastic. So people might think Henry Winkler, winner all the time, win, win, win. But as to hear you tell it, that was not so much in about 2003 when you first met Lynn. Can you take us back there and share that story?
That was a time, 2002, 2003, where it was really difficult to find a job as an actor. I don't know why, it just was. And I had a manager. I had just convinced this man who was my agent at another company, Alan Berger. He was my manager for 90 days. And then his company at that time completely, not his company, but the company he was with, imploded. And so I was having a meeting and they were taking the art off the wall. But during that meeting, he said, write books for children about your learning challenge. And I thought to myself, well, it was going to be a time filler. It was going to be just a space holder. And I said, I can't do that. I'm dyslexic. I really believed I was stupid until about like 10 minutes ago. He said, I'm going to introduce you to my good friend, Lynn Oliver, who knows everything about children's books. She runs an organization, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. She just knows everything about children's literature. I said, okay. We had lunch. We cracked Hank Zipser. We got along and found out that we both produced and I acted on TV. So we knew the process of working together in the same room. Didn't know how important that was going to be over the next 37 novels. But we knew, oh, we've got a commonality here. And then the story goes from there. I called the agent at my agency who handled books, and Esther Newberg. And I said, Esther, we've got a children's book. I don't do children's books. I said, there's always a first time. I don't know. She sent it to 5 people. One said no, one said maybe, and 2 kind of offered a deal. And Deborah said, yes, you can do 4 novels. And we were off and running, and that 4 novels became 37.
Well, and it's a great story because as you realized you were dyslexic actually as an adult. You said you were famously hilarious. You said you failed everything except
lunch.
So here's a guy who failed everything, who is dyslexic, who is called to, write a book. So Lynn, how did you feel in that lunch when you met the very famous Henry Winkler? What were you thinking, and when did you know it was going to click?
Well, I think the minute we both agreed that the fish was horrible, we knew that it was going to click, because we have the same taste in food, and that's the basis really of any relationship, right?
If I may, I've heard so much about this horrible fish. What was the fish exactly?
Well, it was nondescript, which is the worst kind of fish. It was
And it came with parsley potatoes
and boiled carrots. So we had an immediate food taste connection. And actually, to be a little serious for a moment, what I was so moved about in that lunch was it wasn't the famous Henry Winkler. It was Henry Winkler, the vulnerable person who had grown up feeling like he was less than because he had a learning challenge. And that really moved me, because my whole life and career up to that point and since has been devoted to speaking, communicating with kids through television or through books. And every kid feels less than at some point. And even the successful ones, even the cheerleaders, even the class presidents, everybody has that same self-doubt. So the fact that we could mine that and write about it with comedy and with honesty was really appealing to me.
Yeah, and I think with the idea, because I know you have three sons also, and there's this journey that boys take through school that, they're always, more wiggly than the girls. And I think it's such a human and hilarious tale, and some of the hijinks that Hank gets in the Niagara Falls, and when his report card gets made into salami. They're really quite funny. And I think that around 2015, can you say a little bit about, and that children who have dyslexia and everyone just love these books about the font you introduced a couple years ago?
The font was found by the publisher at Penguin, at Children's Workshop, that were our publisher for the Hank books, and it was amazing, because I thought, oh, I wish I had this. It literally makes the eye and the mind friends. The eye and the page friends. You can see the difference immediately. Is that good?
Yep. Yeah, it's weighted a little bit more to the bottom, I've heard. Yeah, it's just right. You don't seize up. It's really wonderful.
And I have to say that everybody that we show it to, adult, child, teacher, librarian, they all go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it literally works. So we were very proud to be the very first children's novel to use this font called Dyslexie ever in America.
Yeah, and the response is, so you sold millions of copies, and people are so emotional. You said from a 6'4" bellman running to you to Timothy Chalamet, like going, I love these books. And
Can I just tell you, Timothy Chalamet, what a wonderful actor. So I see him at an award show. And I go up to him and I said, I need to shake your hand. You are so wonderful. He said, I'm a hugger. And then he said to me, when I was in the 4th grade, you came to PS 87, which is the school I went to, which is the school that Lynn and I put Hank in. He said, I was there in the 4th grade when you came and read Hank Zipser to us. Oh my God, what a circle.
That's so amazing. And I think that, that Lynn, you guys, it's so interesting that you all lived in television. I know the Universal backlot will be important in the book we're about to discuss. But that sort of give and take that is clear when you see you guys, you're not in the same room right now, but I've seen you in interviews, the TV pitching give and take, that thing about leaving the misery at the door. Lynn, is it fun to work with Henry?
Yes, it is. It's absolutely fun. Henry, is it fun to work with me?
Yes, it is.
There you go. There you go. Testimonials. We both essentially grew up in television. Henry is an actor and producer, and me never acting, but always writing and producing. So you learn to collaborate, and you learn to enjoy each other's company and to work in the same room. And you learn, most importantly, to believe that what you're creating together is better than what you could create individually. So that creates respect and fun and pleasure and pride.
Can I just say, when you're making a comedy, there is a night during the week when you're rewriting the script after you've seen a day or two or three of rehearsal. There is a night when you rewrite, and all the writers are together, and sometimes you bring in heavy guns who are one-liners. They get paid an enormous amount of money, terrible food at 3 a.m, and they throw out one-liners. And there you are, and that is the cauldron that Lynn and I had been in separately and then put ourselves in together.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's that. And then it seems you're also children together. You both think diarrhea is funny. Yes. Apparently kids think diarrhea. You both love pizza. And I think I would ask you, Lynn, you have so much experience in this. Is there, and I think, is there, what do you think makes a successful children's author for children's books? What is the thing that does it?
Oh, I have many feelings about that, because there are a great many great adult authors who have tried writing books for children and they're not particularly successful. So I think the first and most important thing is to actually never be sentimental about childhood. There's this sort of common belief like it's a time of innocence and wonder and happiness. And if you actually remember what the first day of school was like in the 3rd grade when the boys teased you, or when you forgot your lunch, it's not, the crises are smaller because you're smaller, but to you, they're equally big. So I think a lack of sentimentality about childhood and really understanding seeing the world through the eyes of however old your protagonist is. In Hank's case, when we first created him, he was 10, and he was a kid who had a lot of positives. He's funny and smart and handsome and a good dancer, but he can't read and he feels bad about his role in school. And so being inside that from a 10-year-old and not thinking, boy, life is fun when you're 10, I think is the crucial thing for a children's book writer.
The other thing is that what I learned from the process and from my own dyslexia is that you learn to solve problems another way. And the one thing that Hank is resourceful. He believes in what he's doing, and he's got really good friends who don't judge him because he's different. But he thinks, okay, I can't do it this way. I'm going to figure this out. And that, I think, is a really important message that comes through all of the books that we've written. And then I realized every character we write is a child on the outside looking in, wanting to be on that side, wanting to be over there, and feeling like I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, and then realizing by the end of our stories, they are.
Which brings us to the Alien Superstar series, exactly, which is the most incredible description of what Buddy Burger is feeling. It's an amazing character. Can you tell us about Buddy Burger and set up the series, if you will?
Well, I'll start, and Henry, you jump in. So the series takes place on Earth, but it stars an alien, a kid alien who on his 13th birthday has to escape his home planet, which is governed by a very repressive government. And when you turn 13, your sensory enhancer, which is a part of your body that enhances all kinds of pleasure and creative thought, is turned off so that you become an automaton to the state. So not wanting this to happen to him, our character's grandmother, who is the chief mechanical engineer of the planet, rigs a spaceship for him to come to Earth. And he lands on the only place that they know, the only address they know, which is Universal City, because they watch movies made in the United States. So he lands directly on the back lot of Universal Studio in the middle of a tour. And when he disembarks as an alien, he fits right in because there's Frankenstein walking around and Homer Simpson, and everyone mistakes him for a character on the back lot. And that's the premise. Then the story begins. Then he actually gets a starring role in television and becomes part of human society. So it gives us a chance to take a look at human society in Hollywood 2021 from the point of view of an alien.
You know, he's a stranger in a strange land, and he gets a job on a situational comedy as the alien because he's already got the costume.
And just as you're describing it, even though, yes, they're male protagonists in these stories, the grandmother character is so fun. The evil female character, Cassidy. There's so many female characters that are just hilarious and rich.
Well, you know what we found was if you write a real underpinning to the comedy, and I'm going to stress again, we write comedy first. We set out to make the child who is a reluctant reader, maybe not a great reader. We set out to make them laugh. And then by laughing, they turn the page. And then they read more and more. But the underpinning, Cassidy, who is the female star of the TV show, has a body image problem. Has a mother who makes her worry too much about the way she looks. So what happens if Buddy reveals himself? Will people still like him if he tells them the truth? So there are these underpinnings that we feel are really important.
Yeah, and it's a great read. I think one of the reviewers said it's even like scary in parts. I mean, it's very funny, it's engaging, even inside the villains' heads, you're in their head, but then, you go, some real troubles happening, and there's mystery from one chapter to the next. So it's like really a fantastic read.
Thank you. Can I just say,
yes.
the book that is coming, the Galaxy versus Hollywood, is the final chapter to Buddy. It is the end of the trilogy. It is the third and final chapter in his adventure on the Earth. What he learns and what he's able to take home and maybe change the quality of life on his planet,
where people can feel emotion and experience things,
right,
and enjoy Skittles, maybe, because I know that. So, okay, this is, if you'll forgive the slightly off the wall question, I was just, because I've been looking at a lot of clips of, about Alien Superstar and Hank and sort of various interviews. And, with the Fonz, it's kind of like hugely, hugely iconic character, beyond almost intergalactic. They may know it on others. And when you see the clips that people have taken of the Fonz, he's always hitting the jukebox, the girl, it's kind of, maybe it works on a building. So it's funny because he has these almost not like alien superpower that like and here they are, girls one at a time. It's a gift. And then you have Buddy, who it's all he can do all day to keep from growing his nails long and like biting into Doritos. And so, I mean, is there any connection between these two characters for you?
You know what? That's a good question. We've never been asked that question before. And the thing I would say there must be, because they come out of the same human being, you know, from my side, of my side of the partnership, that I think, and we write together as Buddy, and I thought and acted the Fonz. So in that soup somewhere, there must be a similarity, but I have not consciously ever thought of it that way. We always saw him as a stranger in a strange land who has to cope with only eating avocados because he gets everything that is healthy for him on Earth. His fingernails grow, his skin can change, changing from the alien to his human personality doesn't work. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah, so go ahead, Lynn, I'm sorry.
What I was going to say is, I think I can say this because I did never play the Fonz, but I think one
Wait
of
a minute, is that true?
in my imagination.
On your wiki, Lynn, it says you did play the Fonz.
And I want to tell you something. Here it is. When we write, sometimes she does wear a leather jacket.
Like this. It's a gift.
But here's what I think is, I think that one of the tremendous appeals of the Fonz was that he was cool while being himself. You know, there's sort of a definition of cool, but cool is being a leader. It's being who you are.
Authentic.
Authentic. And I think Henry really understood that as that character. And every character that we write, that's sort of the goal. The goal is not to blend into the peer group, but to become a part of the peer group by being yourself, by being authentic.
Right. Oh, wow, that's good.
So Buddy is that way. You know, he in the end makes friends and becomes part of human society, even though he has 6 eyes and suction cup for toes and cobalt skin. So he's not trying to conform. He's trying to be seen as different and be appreciated for that. And I think that was the same with the Fonz, don't you, Henry?
I do. You know, as cool as he was, all he wanted was Mrs. C to be his mom.
Yes.
What he wanted was to have Richie as his brother.
Oh, I'm crying now. That's so true. You wanted the normality, but I have to say, and we're going to get off this one, but I'm so obsessed with it. Like when he goes like this, and then 6 girls come forth, he goes one at a time. Wait, your turn. So he's playing the room, right?
But can I just say, this is just a PSA. If you're watching, don't ever snap your fingers at a woman. I promise you, they will break them off. That snapping only works on TV. I snapped at my wife, and I slept in the garden for quite a while.
Although then you could, like Fonz, go to the owls and birds, you know, knock it out. Yeah. Okay, so cool. Then back to the Buddy, Buddy Burger. So, and I think it's so moving because it's hilarious. Start from the beginning. These are a New York Times best-selling series. So delightful to read. And I think that even as adults, we can all, and that's what you're saying, Lynn, adults and children, we all feel awkward. We all, especially when you get older, I had sciatica the other way. It's just like, oh my gosh, kind of like talk about the outside looking in. So it's something that we can all relate to. The books kind of no matter what age. And so adults can certainly do that with nostalgia, no. But a big part of, I love when you guys talk about like Henry, that you've said, you know, kind of that you learn through the ear. Everything happens through your ear.
That's
your
right.
whole life is through your ear. And
That's
and I think Lynn, you know, with your background in television and the way that you are in the room and you talk out dialogue and hear it. And if it makes you guys laugh, you put it on the page. And then lo and behold, you go to a school or library and read it out loud. And the kids will laugh also. So I guess a question that I would ask, I mean, I guess maybe to you, Henry, is, so this is a show, Bookish, that of course many adults watch, and then their children will watch too if they're being good to their parents and they'll watch. If for the children watching right now, do you have a message for anyone?
I do. For two things. One is we don't talk down to the child. So if they're reading to their parents or reading along with their parents or they're sharing chapters with their parents, I think the parents also come up to us and say, that was delightful. I really enjoyed that story. I laughed out loud too. The thing I have said, and I will repeat myself and ad nauseum, if children are watching and they're having a hard time with learning, I'm going to tell you right now, how you learn has nothing to do with how brilliant you are. And that is really important. I took geometry 4 years. I still don't understand it. And here I am with Lynn talking to you.
Yeah, that's so moving. And I think that's why people are so emotional about these books of the different kinds of learning. And Lynn, any thoughts? And with your 3 sons, my gosh, I'm sure they're not in kindergarten anymore. Neither are mine. And like, so what do you take from this in terms of the message to children?
Well, for me, the important thing about reading anything is that you get to walk in somebody else's shoes, right? You get to be it's a window out into the world and it's a mirror back reflecting to you. So when you read, which first of all should be pleasurable, not a duty, and that's we're very committed to that idea that we're going to entertain you first, and then it gives you an opportunity to be somebody else, to be in another world, to understand with compassion what it's like to have all kinds of different attributes. So to me, that's the pleasure of reading, and that's the expanding part of reading for kids. So it doesn't have to be viewed as a school assignment or something you have to learn to do so you can fill out a job application or write an essay for college. It can be a singular pleasure for you and an expanding experience in that you get to experience all kinds of worlds without ever actually leaving your chair.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. And just to know for kids who might have difficulty reading, if they're dyslexic, they can actually read these books and they become a New York Times best-selling author like Henry Winkler with
Just like that.
Can I just say that was one of the great honors or moments in my entire professional life. To have that frame, the actual list from the New York Times, and that we are on it, blows my mind.
It's a gift. Thank you very much, Henry Winkler and Lynn Oliver, your latest installation in your New York Times best-selling series, Alien Superstars, Hollywood versus the Galaxy. It's just out next month, and it is fantastic.
Thank you.
And it will make, however, warning, it'll make you eat avocados constantly.
You can get everything you need.
As promised, here's the font, dyslexia font, see? Okay, and thank you for all of you guys who commented, Linda Landa, Heidi Meyer, Vanessa Franco, Vanessa Rivera about the Fauci pillow. He's such a hero, so inspiring. The chat was going crazy. We don't even have time to go into it because we have Lemony Snicket left. Quick quiz. Okay, and then Samantha will announce the winner at the end. Timothy Chalamet, fan of Henry Winkler, said to him, I'm an A, actor, B, tenor, C, hugger.
Put your answer in the chat, folks.
Answer in the chat. First one, okay, we'll get a book. Okay, so
Lightning up.
go to Daniel Handler, aka Lemony Snicket Live. Okay, so as everyone knows, as Daniel Handler, his critically acclaimed novels are Why We Broke Up, We Are Pirates, and More. As Lemony Snicket, his books are a series of unfortunate events about the awful travails of the tragic Baudelaire orphans, and his prequel, All the Wrong Questions, made into a Netflix series, movie, etc., etc. Sold more than 70 million books, translated into 40 languages. But Samantha, in your Q&A with Daniel Handler recently, amazingly, in the Southern California News Group, you also cited a personal connection before we jump right to it.
I did, and I just have to jump in and say we're such fans of Daniel's because, okay, you know my son Ben, he's 12 now, not what you would call academic, wasn't at all turned on by school until his 5th grade language arts teacher introduced him to The Reptile Room, which was his first Lemony Snicket, A Series of Unfortunate Events books. And man, I tell you, that just changed everything for him. It made him, if not an academic, at least an enthusiastic reader. So
but the thing is that these are not just books for kids. I mean, his latest book just out, Poison for Breakfast, is for adults and kids. And it's just such a wild premise of Lemony Snicket gets up one morning, there's a note under his door, you had poison for breakfast. And it's a standalone mystery. So it's kind of a mystery novel, isn't it?
It's a mystery, you might say, but it's also a deep dive into creativity, into philosophy, into the writing life, and to life and, I don't know, death in general. So,
but it's at the bottom about one word.
Bewilderment.
And on that note, our mission is to be bewildered in the next live conversation with Daniel Handler, Lemony Snicket. Here we go, ladies. Hello, Mr. Handler. Hello.
Why, hello, Ms. Lowe. How are you?
I am well. So we have 10 fast points about Poison for Breakfast. You can take it any way you wish, and you have your accordion there, do you not?
I do. I just leaned down to briefly stroke it and make sure it was in place.
Okay, so in Poison for Breakfast, you
Yes.
cite 3 rules for writing.
Yeah.
Can you share those with all viewers?
Absolutely. The first rule is to have the element of surprise. I think that is a very important aspect of writing, and if only of life, I think. And what I think always about the element of surprise is that, I think that's why it's really important to have the element of surprise. So that's the most important, the first rule of writing. The second is to have missing information. Missing information is very crucial. And that's what happens, I think it's easiest after you've had a long, baggy, terrible draft of a book, and then you begin to take out of the things so that the book contains some missing information and has a core that is a relationship with the reader, a mysterious absence that the reader can fill in. So those are the first 2 rules. The first, the element of surprise. The second, missing information, and nobody knows what the third rule is.
Oh, I just jumped again. It was so surprising that you went in that direction. Okay, so that's point number 1. The second is, okay, can something, and I would go Lemony, since it's Daniel, can something be wonderful and terrible at the same time?
I think most things are wonderful and terrible at the same time. I can't think of anything that isn't wonderful and terrible at the same time. Can you?
Well, I think you said scrambled eggs are terrible and they're not also wonderful. So I think
they're terrible, but I guess, I mean, yeah, there's a part of Poison for Breakfast which is very opinionated on eggs.
Yes.
And part of that is the monstrosity that is scrambled eggs, I would agree. But I mean, I would say that eggs are wonderful and terrible because they could be scrambled. They could be scrambled, which would be terrible, or they could be prepared in any other more delicious way.
And of course, your favorite.
I've had quite a few arguments in the wake of this book publishing. I've had quite a few arguments about scrambled eggs with people. So if you're going to bring it on the scrambled eggs, or are you with me? Do you admit that they're terrible?
I do admit, I know that James Beard has a recipe that is like you have to, and I usually make them because I'm just too lazy, but probably a soft-boiled egg is good.
There you go.
Poached.
A poached egg, there's nothing wrong with a fried egg. You can even bake an egg if you're having some kind of baking fetish that's going on, but a scrambled egg is inexcusable.
Yeah, and I think there's French toast people like chiming in, so we could.
Well, I mean, once you start it as an ingredient, where can't you go? How about a challah fresh from the oven? We have leftover challah from yesterday, breakfast from Yom Kippur. So if you start want to using the egg as an ingredient, where can't you go? My God.
And the mystery hinges partly on the egg, but okay, I'm going to ask you a very controversial question. I didn't pre-screen it with you, so if it's too delicate to answer, feel free to just take a pass on number 3, which is Lemony Snicket. Are you anti-baby?
Am I anti-baby?
There is a joke that you tell in Poison for Breakfast that you seem to think is funny. I think it's a little bit, it's baby orange. You remember that joke?
Of course I remember that joke. I don't think I have time. It's kind of a lengthy joke, so I don't think I have to tell time of it. But no, I think it really depends on what baby. I like a baby. I've hung out with babies before. I'm a father. My son is no longer a baby. He's like hardly a child. He's almost one of those, what's the word I'm looking for? Grown up.
Adult.
Yeah, he's one of those. But yeah, I'll like a baby. I mean, it depends. Everybody loves a sleeping baby, for instance. Who doesn't love a sleeping baby? What an angel. Or a baby that's like making a delightful noise and maybe playing with something. I love that baby. The baby who's crying when the parents are supposed to be fixing me a martini, not so much. No, I don't like that baby as much.
Okay, totally not, but people will have to get the book to read this admittedly rather hilarious baby joke.
Thank you very much. That's kind of you to say. That means a lot coming from a hilarious woman such as yourself.
Oh, very nice.
Taste.
That's so flattering. I hate to tell you that in the chat, there's Tabasco, there's French toast, purple yam bread. It's just gone off the charts here.
Purple yam bread. Oh man, I haven't thought about purple yam bread since high school. How's she doing, purple yam bread? Is she still working over by the airport?
She's with Orange Pico tea. They're living together, and it's not always the most beautiful land, but
yeah, it's a colorful relationship. But yeah.
So now we're clocking up. Sort of, I'm calling this 4, but I don't know what number the numbers are. And tea also. Tea has a special significance in this.
Yeah, well, I mean, the overall arc of Poison for Breakfast is that when Mr. Snicket receives a note saying that he had poison for breakfast, he investigates each aspect of his breakfast, and his breakfast beverage is tea. I like a cup of tea myself. I'm not really sure what you're asking. Are you asking for a recipe for tea? Because it's pretty easy.
So I think there are many moments where there's a moment of contemplation. I think this particular thing that I lens in was the tea shop, and the sort of the moment of tea, the taking time of tea. It's like a moment out of the day.
Yeah, well, I think the contemplation is a more and more prized possession in the era of distraction. So Mr. Snicket talks about how having tea, you have to wait for it to brew. So you just have to have a moment waiting for your tea to be ready. Everybody knows that if you decide to multitask, if you put your tea bag in the hot water and you're like, while it brews, I'm going to do something else, then soon you will have no tea. You'll have too cold tea. You'll have too strong tea. So you should have a moment of contemplation, which I think is at the heart of all literature. I know Ms. Oliver there and Mr. Winkler were discussing the kind of quiet heart at the center of literature, the relationship between the reader and the books. Maybe someone's reading it out loud to you, that beautiful contemplative space that books create. That's important to me.
Yeah, and I think that quiet contemplation, that moment of children being yanked everywhere, which is very much like adults are also yanked places. So I think it resonates both with children and with adults, and which brings us to point number, I think, 6, and we're going all over the place of wanderers. And I think that this book, it's such a fast read. It was over before I knew it, and I was sad that it was over. And I think one of the journeys is that we're all sort of wanderers from somewhere, and you brought up Korla Pandit.
Yeah. Well, I talk about, the book is very much in motion. Mr. Snicket is wandering from breakfast item to breakfast item and contemplating. And as a writer, I take a lot of walks to try to improve the terrible sentences that I've written during the day and try to make them better. But yeah, he wonders about the path of Corla Pandit, who is a musician. He was did most of his musicianing in the Los Angeles area, where I know you are coming to me from. But I saw him when I was very young on television. He was a mysterious figure in a turban playing the organ. And I kind of just took him at face value when I was young. And as I grew older, I began to think to myself, that doesn't seem like a genuine cultural experience that I had. I wonder what that is. I found a documentary about him and some other information about him too. And he was an African-American musician. They think he was the first African-American to have his own television program. It's kind of the history's a little shaky, but they think that's what it was. But of course, it was at a time when he certainly did not feel welcome to express himself in his true self and the world of television. I was not ready for a television host of that particular stripe. And so he pretended he was from India. He had an entire fictitious and mysterious persona, and to try to unpack the kind of cultural baggage that that this country has in terms of those things, that the entire world has, but certainly this country in particular, and in terms of an African American musician being forced to pass as another kind of cultural mysterious stereotype is an uncomfortable moment in history. And I thought that was worth contemplating. I thought that was worth thinking about, because it is a mysterious journey that you could go from being an African American musician to wearing a turban and saying your name was Corla Pandit.
Yeah, and this moment, it is Lemony Snicket walking around this town trying to solve this mystery, but it is really a work of philosophy. But it's so fun. It's fun philosophy that it's so fun and interesting to read and go so many different places.
Thank you. That's more of a compliment than a question, but I accept it.
Yes. So a couple of things, because we want to get to the accordion, and I think we would touch on happiness, loneliness, clumsiness, literature, and bewilderment that are all in a stew of just a wonderful mix.
Oh, thank you. You're bringing up all of the large abstract ideas that I did, in fact, try to slip into the book. Part of the genesis of the book was that when my son was younger and he was beginning to choose books for himself, he was very interested in nonfiction. And nonfiction for children often is kind of the textbook variety, like Lizards of North America, or it is of the kind of historic variety, the freedom writers and where they came from. And of course, God bless both efforts, and God bless Lizards and the freedom writers both. But I was interested in the kind of nonfiction that I find the most fulfilling, in which there's ideas being discussed and someone kind of unpacking an idea. And I thought it might be nice to bring that into children's literature. So these ideas of bewilderment and alienation, of the contemplation as you go for a walk, of the cultural forces in which we immerse ourselves that sometimes bump up against one another uncomfortably. I thought all that was something that is worth thinking about. I've had so many wonderful conversations in my years in children's literature, meeting so many young readers who like to think about these serious ideas, and I thought it was a way to bring them forward.
So what are you going to play for us today on your accordion?
Well, because you asked so nicely, and I have to say, I would like to take a little moment here to recognize that Sandra Singh Low has done wonders for the literary community and for the children's literary community all over the place. You're a hilarious writer. You're a terrific person, as far as I can tell. I don't know you personally, but I had you checked out, and you seemed like a lovely person. And there's so many artists and writers such as yourself who would be content with their own work, and you have always spent so much time. Whenever I see you, we've never hung out, but whenever I've seen you in a professional setting, at a conference, on a stage, you're always shining a light on someone else. And I'm really grateful for that. And I think that that's worth celebrating. So when you asked me to play something on the accordion, I thought, how can I say no? Just a wonderful figure in the community. So here it is. This is my bright red accordion. And I'm going to sing a song about Count Olaf, who is the villain in a series of unfortunate events. And the song requires a little participation from Ms. Lowe, from everyone, but I could only see Ms. Lowe. Okay. So I'm going to tell Ms. Lowe what to do. All of you are going to follow along. And I, of course, can't see you here, but I'm told that the officials who are running this event have a camera installed in each of your homes, and we're all watching you, and we're going to make sure that you're all participating the way I'm telling you to. This is the 21st century. This is how we do things, with surveillance. So this is about Count Olaf. The Count has an eye on his ankle and lives in a horrible place. He wants all your money, he's never at all funny. He wants to remove your face. And you might be thinking what a romp this is, but wait till you meet his accomplices. When you see Count Olaf, you're suddenly full of disgust and despair and dismay. In the whole of the soul of Count Olaf, there's no love. When you see Count Olaf count to 0, then scream and run away. Scream, scream, scream and run away. Run, 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 or die, 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 die. Two women with powdered white faces and one long-nosed bald man with warts. Things worsen and worsen. There's a hook-handed person and others with nastier parts. This evil and unpleasant group completes Count Olaf's acting troupe. The goal of Count Olaf is getting control of the fortunes of urchins and orphans. Hooray, I mean horrors, Count Olaf is no laughing matter. When you see Count Olaf count to 0, then scream and run away. Scream, scream, scream and run away. Run, 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 or die, 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 die. And now this last part of the song requires everyone's least favorite thing, audience participation. Follow along with Ms. Lowe on the screen. When I sing the part that says run, you may pretend that you're running. Rehearsal? Let me see you run. Very nice. And when I sing the part that says die, you may pretend to die. Rehearsal? Oh, wonderful. And rise from the dead and run. Run, 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 run. Or die, 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 die. Run, 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 run. Or die, 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 die. Run, run, die, die, run, run, die, die, run, die, run, die, run, die, run, die, die.
Oh my God, that
Very
was,
much.
I guess
Finally.
that you are amazing.
Thanks, Lo. You're
I don't
amazing
know what to
yourself.
say. That was, I don't know what to say, except that you are an amazing, you're an effing American treasure. And and that's it. And your new book, Poison for Breakfast, you'll read. It's so great, and it's so literature. It just, you are so, just reading it, it's a celebration of the word you give all writers and readers everywhere hope. Frankly,
Thank you very much. Aren't you kind, Lo?
Such
Thanks for having me over.
a pleasure. Okay.
Next time, maybe we can do it in person, because I know you're a musician yourself. So maybe next time, you know,
It's a date.
take the band on the road.
It's a date. The piano's there. It's on wheels. Okay.
Once
Thank
the
you.
pandemic has, you know, vanished, you and I can finally play all of the great musical halls of the earth. Finally. We can hit the Fillmore, we can hit Lincoln Center, we can do them all.
Thank you so much, Daniel Handler, Lemony,
Thanks for
Snicket,
having me.
Poison for Breakfast. Oh my God. Oh my God. So Samantha, back to you. Thank you.
Oh,
Who is our
man.
winner? I'm taking myself
The-
off.
Okay.
Announcement.
Hasta la vista, baby. I mean, what do we say? That was just so spectacular. Thank you, Sandra, and thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Henry. And oh, before I forget, our winner today of the free book is Alyssa Harper of Fountain Valley. So yay, Alyssa. Anyway, if you had fun today, and I know you did, I mean, if you didn't, you're dead. So come back October 15th with practical magic author Alice Hoffman. She's going to be here to talk about her first work in 20 years, as well as best-selling nonfiction author Mary Roach. And stay tuned for our other special guests. Also check our listings of other upcoming programs like Garden Party, and you can find them at scng.com/virtual events. But never fear, you don't have to wait long for great content on authors. Here to tell you what's coming up in our newspapers is book section editor Eric Peterson. Eric.
Hey, thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. I'm Eric Peterson. I edit the book section for the Southern California News Group. You'll hear a horn outside, which may be someone who is trying to play along with the accordion, but I'm not entirely sure. We've got some great stories coming up in this weekend's papers. We've got a wonderful piece from baseball writer Dan Epstein about 22 excellent baseball books just about California teams. So you don't have to worry. There's no Yankees, there's no Mets, the Dodgers, the Angels, the A's, the Giants, the Padres, and more, and a lot of other teams that you may not have heard about. It's fascinating. It's terrific. Also coming up in the next week, we've got an interview with Twisted Sister guitarist J.J. French. He's got a new business book, and it's called Twisted Business. It's the story that we've got is fascinating. It looks at his life, his ups and downs, and more. It's terrific. Also coming up, we've got an incredible interview with a Hollywood star who has a new book coming out. That's all I'll say there. And we've got stories on a great piece of science fiction that's set in Southern California. We've got the author of a book of short stories that you're going to want to know about, and also a piece on a fantastic novel that's set in the California desert. So at SCNG, we celebrate local Southern California authors, and we're grateful for readers like you. We all contribute to the literary environment around here, whether you're an author, a reader, a bookseller, a librarian, a teacher, a journalist even, and we're glad to have this time with you. So thank you. Back to you, Samantha.
Thank you, amigo. Much appreciated. And hey, real quick, if you'd like to share your thoughts from today, if you have suggestions or you just want to add additional questions, please email us at events@scng.com. Have a great weekend. We hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye.